It's about Monon boxcars, as you might expect. And I showed this first in Cocoa Beach, Florida, Greensburg, PA. This was back in 2017. So it's still appropriate yet. Today I just looked it over. There's a couple of things I might change, but let's go to the next slide and get past that one. That's the one where you tell everybody in the audience to kill their cell phones. And these are all the folks that helped or had some contribution to this project and who've helped me over the years in understanding some of the stuff that I built and didn't know what I was doing. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. This is what the Monon Railroad looked like going into World War II. This was the most modern boxcar they had.
Oh,
And it was a composite car built in the 20s. Go to the next one. I modeled one of these, and I'm going to skip through modeling. It's not going to be very intense, but this was an Ambroid kit, and I just flipped the sides and respaced the scribing and basically assembled it the way it was. It was generally correct, but I redid a little bit of it to get this, and it's probably a good stand-in. Go to the next one. Okay, to familiarize you with the Monon, the main line ran from Chicago to Louisville, and we had branches north from Monon to Michigan City, another branch to Indianapolis, and then a small branch to French Lick, Indiana, and another coal branch, which went to Midland, Indiana. But the main line was Chicago to Louisville. All of the Monon's trackage rights, or all the Monon's trackage, was in the state of Indiana. It went into Chicago on the Chicago and Western Indiana, went into Louisville on the Kentucky and Indiana terminal. But the Monon depended significantly upon interchange partners, not only for overhead traffic, but for a supply of freight cars also. Go ahead. In Chicago, the Monon interchanged with the Belt Railway of Chicago, and that gave access to all the roads listed down there, which means the Monon had access to all of their boxcars during the busy season. All the boxcars that were online that came up empty. Go to the next one. Okay, the Monon also interchanged with the Indiana Harbor Belt, and here are many of the same railroads again that the Monon had access to their equipment. Go ahead. And on the south end, the Monon terminated at the Kentucky and Indiana terminals Youngtown Yard in Louisville, which gave it access to the railroads listed there. I made a change on this, but I couldn't change Greg's. Southern Railway should be SOU instead of SR. I've done that wrong for years.
yeah.
Go to the next one. And in Indianapolis, the Monon had a few customers of its own, but typically it served all of Indianapolis through the Indianapolis Union Railway, and it had access to the B&O, C&O, Nickel Plate, Central, Peoria, and Eastern, and the Pennsylvania Railroad. Go ahead. And I should mention Michigan City. The Monon's largest customer in Michigan City was the Pullman Standard car manufacturing plant. The Monon switched the cars. All of the 1,395 of the Monon's 40-foot steel box cars were built at the Michigan City plant.
Oh,
And what is interesting about that is they built everybody else's cars also. And in some cases, the Monon had authority to take those cars and load them in the direction of the new owner. So the Monon would load the cars before the new owner even saw them. Not in all cases, but in some. But every new car that was produced by Pullman Standard in Michigan City was handled by the Monon first.
mm.
Okay, go ahead. And it never hurts to remind everybody, as they always say, the Pennsy owned about 10% of all the nation's freight cars, which means the Monon probably had a significant number online. However, the Monon interchanged with the Pennsy at no less than 10 locations. So the Monon was ripe to get short hauled by the Pennsy. Go to the next one. Uh, we're going to talk about three different categories of freight cars that the Monon owned. Uh, First group was the 37 design AAR cars with 10-foot interior height. Then we have a group of pre-PS1 design cars, which were 10.6 interior height. Pre-PS1 means it had some of the PS1 design features, but not all of them. And that was what was purchased before the Monon received its a final fleet of all welded design PS1 10.6 interior height cars. So it'd be the group. And there was a total of 1,395 cars, although that obviously varied at any given time based on accidents and various other situations. The Monon was changed its paint scheme with almost every delivery of new cars, and then it tinkered with the paint scheme throughout the lives of the cars. So we'll get into that also. Go ahead. The first steel cars were a group of 150 that were delivered in September 1941. And of course, we weren't in World War II yet, but boy, it was coming. And the cars, and we were doing a lot with supporting the Allied the Allies in Europe. So business was up, and more cars were needed. These particular cars were painted brown with white lettering, and it featured the reliable service herald, which is something that was not on all Monon cars. And it says reliable at the top, service on the bottom, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Louisville in the middle. Go ahead. This is a model of one of those cars. This is a red Caboose 37 designed AR boxcar, model railroad supply. That's me. I produced the decals for this car. Um, a decorated kit, which I also developed for the Monon Society, was produced at one time for this car. Some of those are still around if you look hard, and so a lot of how guys buy kits and don't build them. So you might be able to find one of those. I painted my car scale coat to boxcar red prior to the decal lettering. Go ahead. The next series of cars were delivered in April 42, and they were the same car. Uh, uh, it was a group of uh, 37 AAR boxcars. The only difference is this group had the National Malibu B1 trucks, and there were 300 cars in this series. But other than that, they were almost identical to the first group. There was a little bit of difference in the lettering, and go ahead to the next slide. When I did these cars for the Monon Society, I picked up on that slight change in the lettering, and so the Monon Society kits are accurate for this car. However, the kits did not come with the National B1 trucks, so you gotta cover that one yourself. Go ahead. In
Mm.
After the war, June of 1947, the Monon received its largest single order for 40-foot boxcars. These were the pre-PS1 design cars, and due to vendor supply problems, they were not as standardized as the Monon would have liked. The most notable variation was the first 250 cars have 7-panel superior doors, as you see here with boxcar number 1. Go ahead. These were also the first 10.6 height cars. John Berger was president of the Monon, and I say here that he was a Pennsylvania Railroad car clerk. I don't think that was the case. The more I've learned, however, he did work. His first job in railroading was with the Pennsy, and he did develop an aversion for large car numbers. So he mandated that on this first new series of cars received during his presidency of the Monon, that the first number be 1 and the last number be 500
Mm.
for that a group of 500 cars. And hence we have Monon number 1, which became kind of famous. Go ahead. Uh, you can build this, but it takes a little bit of effort. This is a branch line kit with all of the welds or all of the rivet seams scraped off and
Oh,
replaced with vertical weld seams. Uh, you can either scribe those in the car or do as I did, and I used Archer weld seams and made the weld panels. These are 10 panel sidecars, and this is one of the first 150 cars, so it has the 7 panel superior door, and I got that from an Intermountain PS1 kit. Uh, and I think you could buy those separately at one time, and I did buy them. Scale coat 2 boxcar red paint, model railroad supply decals. Go ahead. The second 250 cars were easily identified because of their Youngstown camel doors. And that door, incidentally, was also the Monon's door of choice for future purchases wherever at all possible. Again, shortage of vendor supply items made this door variation necessary, and there were a number of differences in doors, trucks, running boards, handbrakes, and other less visible components. Go ahead. And here's one of the second 250 cars. Same branch line kit, seams scraped off, vertical rivet or weld rows added, same paint and lettering as the last one. Go ahead. Then in June 49, Monon took delivery of its first PS1s, a total of 33 cars. Um, all were delivered, and incidentally, all cars through 994, number 994, were delivered by the end of 1957, and they were all of the PS1 design from this point henceforth. So 501 to 533 are still the same brown in color, but the lettering was once again modernized uh, with the larger herald and the larger word Monon. And this paint scheme became one of the standard paint schemes that the Monon used going forward. The roof and ends most likely were black. Go ahead. And here's an Intermountain PS1, uh, same paint and lettering as last time, same source. Builds into a nice car. And I, added a few details like I always do with the uh, uh, sill steps, cut levers, air hoses, uh, and a few things like that. Go ahead. Now the PS all welded cars in December of 52, 250 additional cars were delivered. And if you're having trouble keeping track of all this, by the way, I can't see you, but I'm sure a lot of you are scrambling to write down notes and taking so that you won't forget any of this in case there's a test. Um, I've got a handout which I sent to Greg just before this started, and I will. Greg can send that to everybody, and it's got all of these delivery dates and the variations among the cars. So you don't have to worry. You can quit taking notes. Anyway, 601 to 851, this was the paint and lettering scheme for this group of cars, and they generally carried this paint scheme all the way to the end. Go ahead. This is an Intermountain PS1, um, and same scale coat 2 boxcar red and model railroad supply decals. The Monon Society also made this car. I helped develop it, and if you get a hold of one of those, it's generally correct. KD also made this car, and in several different numbers, and that car is a good model also. In fact, it's probably the best of all of them. Go ahead. This is number 820, and this is a KD model. However, I've updated the dimensional data and the reweigh date and did the little things I like to do to the cars. But other than that, and weathering. So other than that, this is what you get from KD. Nice car, and they're still out there. You can find them. I see them around. Go ahead. Now, in April of 1953, the Monon purchased only 7 cars, and in April '53, with this paint scheme. This was the first time that a builder applied this paint scheme to a Monon boxcar, 1953. The odd thing about these cars, first of all, the paint scheme was introduced at the Monon's Lafayette shops in 1952. The odd thing about these cars is the door. These are 7 foot doors, and there are only 7 of these cars. Yet this is the one KD chose to model. So even though the Monon only had 7, the KD probably produced 7,000 of them. So those are very available, and you can find them uh, almost anywhere. Um, and this was a little the paint scheme was a little brighter red. I used a different red on the bottom of the car. The top stripe looks like it's white, but it was probably gray, and then the rest of the lettering was gray. And of course, the Hoosier line at the top was in black. The ends and roof were black. Go ahead to the next slide. This is a well-worn car from that series, and there's really not much to say about it other than this. Then the railroad could not use these cars in grain service because the grain doors were all set up for 6 foot doors, and this was a 7 foot door, and they wouldn't fit well. So they had to find another use for these cars. Why would they buy 7 cars like that? Well, remember the Monon was the railroad that switched the Michigan City shops, the car shop, and I kind of got the impression that the phone rang one day in the Monon offices, and they said, "Hey, we got these 7 cars that somebody ordered, and they're not going to take them. Have we got a deal for you?" And I suspect it went down south, meaning further down south on the Monon from there. So the Monon purchased the 7 cars with the odd door size, and these are the only non 6 foot doors purchased by the Monon from a manufacturer. Go ahead. Just an end shot pretty well proves the ends were black. This is a Pullman standard photograph, but it shows you how the end lettering went. And they're really unremarkable end for a PS1. Go ahead. And this is an Intermountain PS1 with a 7 foot door opening. Uh, I scratch built the door back before I could get my hands on one commercially. And we have a new paint color. This is Pennsylvania Railroad freight car color. Scale coat 2 and model railroad supplied decals again. The roof is black and the ends are black. Next. This is the KD car built by my Lehigh Valley modeler friend Chuck Davis. We, as I do sometimes, we traded cars from our favorite railroads, and this is what I gave him. I couldn't model all 7 of these cars, so I've only got a couple of them, and that's way too many. So I obviously had one for Chuck, and he went to work on it and weathered it, and this is on his layout. So that's the KD car with the 7 foot door. Go ahead. January 10th, 1956, the Monon changed its name from Chicago, Indianapolis, and Louisville, known as the Monon route, to Monon Railroad. And at that time, everything with a reporting mark after that date was lettered MON period, not MON, but MON period. Later, they changed the reporting mark to MON without the period. So after this date, we began seeing MON instead of CIL on all newly painted cars, as well as old cars. They would paint out the CIL and put MON or MON period in its place. Go ahead. So the first group of cars that were delivered with the MON reporting marks were 25 cars numbered 541 to 565. However, these cars were built way back in November of 1952, even though they were delivered in September of 56. The reason is they were built for the New York, Susquehanna, and Western, and apparently they were traded back into Pullman, or Pullman bought them back and refurbished them and resold them to the Monon, but not before they painted them. So these cars were painted by Pullman Standard in Michigan City, and of course got the current MON reporting marks. And of course, all cars that were built and painted in Michigan City had black ends and black roofs. The Monon did not paint black ends and black roofs, but Pullman Standard Michigan City did. And that's how you tell the difference. Go ahead. Here's a model of one of the cars. I only modeled two of them. This is a McKean PS1. Various detail upgrades. The paint back then I used was Flocal Boxcar Red, again with Model Railroad supply decals. Because I used the Flocal paint, which is flat, I had to use a gloss surface on top of it to get the decals to lay down the way I wanted them to. Um, the roof should be painted black, although it could represent a pretty well worn car. Go ahead. This is the last series of 40-foot boxcars purchased by the Monon. April 1957. They got 130 cars, and they were all PS1 design. And these were the first cars that had the low tack board on the door. And of course, this was the Monon, by then the Monon's signature painted lettering scheme, but this was also the last time it was applied by a builder. Next. The prototype didn't weather well. The stripe up at the top seemed to do better than the which was allegedly gray, and the white lettering down below didn't hold up as well, as you can see in this photo here. I might also add that in addition to low tack board, these guys rolled on ASF A3 ride control trucks, and the A3s were the most common truck you could find on Monon freight cars. And the 6-foot doors were the camel door, which was the door that the Monon preferred for any car that had much control over what was how it was built. Go ahead. This is a model of the car. It's an Intermountain PS1 kit. I've got quite a few of these on the model railroad. Half of them I built myself and painted them with scale coat Pennsylvania Railroad car color and used my decals. However, the Monon Society also offered this same car with more different numbers, and I bought some of those also. The roof should be painted black on this model also. Go ahead. Okay, there were alternate uses for Monon boxcars. Some of them had special load restraining devices installed. Others were painted for high-speed merchandise service, or LTL or LCL service is what that means. And then some made it into passenger train service. So let's take a look at what we have for these alternate uses. Go to the next slide. This car is a 37AR car. They took 25 of them in the late 30s, excuse me, the late 40s, uh, or maybe early 50s, and put load securement equipment in them. Now, they were drawn at random from the 9001 to 9149 series, and were equipped with the load restraining devices. They got this special paint scheme so they would stand out. This is gray, and maybe some of you've seen this lettering scheme, gray with red lettering. Uh, there have been cars made like this where they captured this as the standard lettering for Monon car, which was not true. These were 25 unique cars that got this lettering. Champ used to make a set for this, and if you go to the next slide, this shows the load restraining devices inside one of the cars. Um, Cargo claims were a big deal, and this was a great way to keep cargo claims from happening. Go ahead. And this is my model of the 1223. Um, I use Scale Coat 2 Maintenance Way Gray and the Champ decals. Uh, and based on this model and an article that was, it was in RMC on this car, Des Plaines Hobbies went ahead and built, had a run of these models made. I've got one of them, they're great. So you might be able to find one out there on the used market, or you could make your own if you can round up the Champ decals. Um, Next slide. This is what happened to the 1223 and other cars like it. During the late 50s and 60s, the contemporary paint scheme was applied. Uh, by the way, the 1200 series was cleared for these cars. Originally, they were double door box cars in that series, and they moved them into other series so that the 1200 series could be kept, especially for uh, cars built with the load securement equipment inside. Go ahead. And here's my model of the 1222. It's a red caboose car with detail enhancements. And we're back to scale coat 2 boxcar red for this one, model railroad supply decals. And this particular car uh, had the national B1 trucks as a consequence of that random selection of 25 cars from a 150 cars or 450 car series. Go ahead. Oh, by the way, they retained their wood running boards. These cars, they were built with wood running boards and retained wood running boards throughout their lives. Um, okay, this just shows you the XML classification, and because these cars were typically assigned, and therefore they had reverse routing assignments. Uh, Go ahead. Next in this series with 1226 to 1239, drawn at random again from the taller 1 to 500 series pre-PS1 cars. And they were equipped with DF load restraint devices. The door openings were enlarged to 8 feet, which meant they had to add some reinforcement under the door. Otherwise, this is the typical car that you would, like I built them from the branch line car. These were all assigned to Appliance Park, Kentucky, near Louisville on the L&N, where they loaded appliances. It was called GE Appliance Park. Uh, and interestingly, the 8-foot doors came from the Monon 1600 series 50-foot box cars, which were at that time being refitted with plug doors. So they took the doors off one set to replace them and then put them on these cars when they increased the door open. These are the only 8-foot, 40-foot Monon box cars, and these had to be built at the Lafayette car shop. And the doors painted silver. The rest of the paint's pretty much what you'd expect. Go ahead. And this is a model of one. This is a CB&T kit. I still had to put the uh, weld lines in. They're scribed in this particular case. Various detail enhancements, scale coat 2 boxcar red, model railroad supply decals, and the door is from an Aether car that I cleaned up and put in its place. Go ahead. Then the 1240 to 1279 uh, specially equipped cars were also drawn from the 1 to 500 series, and they received Spartan tri belt loaders. That's what that STB to the left of the door means. Uh, and every one of the cars had that logo on it. And this is the paint scheme that they got when they were transferred into this service, and they pretty well retained that clear to the end. Um, Go ahead. Another view of one. Remember, depending on which series it was drawn from, you'll have a 7-panel door, or you'll have the camel corrugated door. These cars were assigned to, among other things, appliance loading at Appliance Park, transportation of auto parts, and also stacks of bricks. There were a number of two brick manufacturers in Crawfordsville, and load restraint cars were also assigned to them. Uh, and they were instrumental in here again limiting some of the cargo damage that the railroad experienced. Go ahead. this car and its twin 1285, 1284, 1285, both had 8-foot doors. These were panel doors, and that was in keeping with their assignment to Appliance Park, Kentucky. That made it easier for the forklift guys to load the appliances. They have DF2 loading restraints, and these are the highest known numbers in the 1200 series. Note the length and the full length side sill, and no running boards, lowered ladders, and the door is painted silver. Go ahead.
Hmm.
The problem with these two cars is they have 5.5 improved dreadnought ends, riveted sides, 10-foot 6 interior height. The Monon didn't have any cars like that to rebuild into this. So where did they come from? We don't know. Our guess is probably they're wreck rebuilds, meaning that somebody destroyed a couple of Monon cars and this is what they gave them to replace them with. And the Monon just took that raw fodder into the Lafayette car shop and did this to them while they had them. That's only a guess, uh, but that's the only thing we can come up with because the Monon had no 5.55 or 5.5 improved dreadnought ends and no riveted side cars with that type of end. Go ahead. The Monon also enjoyed less than carload freight, probably later than a lot of railroads did. And they withdrew at least 8 and probably 10 cars from the 9001 to 9449 series and assigned them to LCL duties. Now, any box car that was clean and dry was eligible for less than carload service, but these cars were typically dedicated to it and would most likely be seen at one of the Monon's freight houses. Go ahead. Here are the known numbers for anybody that's interested. This paint scheme was first applied in 1952 along with the other white stripe scheme. And these cars ran until LCL service ended about 1959, maybe a little later, uh, at which time, well, no, it was later than that, uh, probably about 1962, at which time they were returned to general service, but they did not have the benefit of repainting. These cars kept their original numbers. There was no renumbering. Um, Not much else unique about them. Go ahead. Here's a model of one. This is a decorated red caboose car that was offered by the Monon Society. And the society bungled it in that they got the wrong size herald on the car. And that affected the placement of the dimensional data below it. A pretty easy fix. Scrape off the herald, put the right size, which is a 42-inch herald, on the car, and then replace the dimensional data below, and you're in business. The rest of it was factory painted and sold by the Monon Society. And you'll notice the stripe did not go across the door. That's always the hardest part for the modeler, and so in this case, they helped us out. Go ahead. Now, in 1955, as other railroads were taking passenger trains off, it looks like the mail and express business sort of gravitated toward the Monon, and we're talking about Indianapolis to Chicago in return and Louisville to Chicago in return. And I said that backwards. It probably most of it originated in Chicago and went to Louisville and Indianapolis. So the Monon converted 8 troop kitchen cars, as like you see here, which is not what this clinic is about, um, for this service, but that wasn't enough. They also converted 6 PS1 design box cars uh, into express cars for passenger service. Go ahead. The first 2 cars were numbered 250 and 251, as you can see here. And this might look like a model shot, but it's not. I'm not sure where it was taken, but it's kind of a famous photograph. This is what the freshly painted cars looked like, and and one of them's right there with a freshly painted passenger car. Um, Cars number 635 was car number 635 was renumbered 250, and 841 was number 251. These were passenger service numbers, and all six of the cars, of course, received steam and signal lines required to run in passenger trains. Go ahead. Here's a model of one of these cars. The Monon Society took McKean models kits and decorated them for the passenger service. Uh, Number 251 was the only one offered for the passenger service scheme. And here you see one. Modeler had to add the steam and signal lines to the car, but other than that, this is correctly painted. Go ahead. And we also modeled the 635. So that was originally the 250 after it had been returned to general service. They didn't take the time to repaint it. They just applied the MON reporting marks. So you know it was after 1956 when it went back to general freight service. And this is what it looked like. It's pretty well
Uh,
photographed car,
yeah.
considering how odd it was. And I have, go ahead, I have the 635 run around on the layout someplace, as you can see here. Uh, Generally try to get it to look like the original. Steam and signal lines were removed, of course. Go ahead to the next one. Those PS1s stood out significantly in the Monon's passenger trains, and they were almost exclusively used on the Indianapolis trains. Chicago to Indianapolis. And you can see one of them here right behind the locomotive. See how far it sticks up versus the rest of the passenger equipment. The other cars were 641, 775, 784, and 820. Um, One of the cars, and you can just barely see it in this picture, had the Hoosier Line stripe across the top. So that car had to have been repainted because 641 through all four of those numbers had that basic Monon paint scheme, which was the uh, scale coat boxcar, scale coat 2 boxcar red uh, paint with the white stripe across the top. So that car obviously got repainted, but it looks like the other three may not have been, but they were freight service colors in passenger trains. Go ahead. Let's go to fleet rebuilds. In 1965, the Monon sold what remained of that first fleet of 1937 AA cars to the Monon Transportation Company. Monon Transportation Company then hired the Monon's Lafayette car shops to rebuild the series in kind, after which they were leased back to the Monon. As modelers, it doesn't really matter. They got repainted. I mean, that's what matters. And they got repainted in the Monon shops. And here's what they looked like when they came out. Now, this was done randomly. So you got all kinds of door configurations and nothing matches anything. So you
Mm.
almost got to model it car by car. But this is the paint scheme that was being applied in 1965. Go ahead.
Mm.
Here's another variation that you need to go back one. Yeah, another variation of the paint scheme. It has the herald a little bit higher. Notice during the rebuild process, typically the side sills were reinforced. Older cars got, that's where the weakness seemed to pop up was at the bottom of the door opening. Uh, and these cars did retain their original wood running boards in 1965. Go ahead. This is my model of one of those cars. This is a red caboose kit. Added the side sill modification and various detail enhancements, as you might expect. Scale code 2 boxcar red, model railroad supply decals. And the cars that had their National B1 trucks kept their National B1 trucks. So that's why you've got to look at the car you're building to make sure you model it correctly. Go ahead.
Mm.
In 1969, or starting in 1969, the railroad sold what remained of the 1 to 500 pre-PS1 group, again to Monon Transportation Company, and then they were again rebuilt in the Lafayette shops. The first 100 rebuilds had their running boards removed and their A end side and end ladders cut down, and the B end uh, ladders, the side ladders were cut down, but um, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. The A end ladders remained tall because the handbrake equipment was not cut down. And there were 100 cars of the 450 potential, or I mean 500 potential cars. 400, 100 of these were rebuilt in the manner that you see here and painted so like this. Go ahead. Okay, this is a model of one of those 100 cars, and you see the roof walk's been removed. Here again, I had to go through all the gyrations with the removing the rivets and the vertical weld seams and all that. And in this case, I had to fill the holes in the roof because there was no running board to hide it with. And typical paint job was applied. You can see the ladders on the brake end, the B end, remain tall for access uh, to the brake or the hand brake. Go ahead. And this is prototype for the next group of cars. A total of 428 of the 500 cars got rebuilt. You remember they were picking and choosing cars out from the various series, so they were using them for other things, and I'm sure some of them got destroyed in wrecks. But 10,000, and that car number is not quite right. Um, it should be 10,10101 to 10428 retained their high mounted handbrake housing, running boards, side and end ladders, because they needed to access roof hatches, one in each corner opposite the corner platform of the running boards. So each car got two roof hatches in the ends, and of course, you could still load grain through the door. So these cars allowed quicker and more efficient grain loading. That's what their intention was. Go ahead. Here's a shot of the inside of the car shop, while this process was going on. And if you look to the left and behind the, looks like the cutting torch equipment, those are roof hatches, big pile of them.
Huh. Huh.
So the way the Monon shop operated, they had 10 positions in the line. Each position, somebody did something different, and then it rolled down to the next spot. So it looks like about 6 positions through, the roof hatches got put on. And in this particular case, they had to cut the roof panels out and replace them with panels that would accept the roof hatches. And then the cars kept moving on down the line. Of course, the last spot was rolled out and put at the paint shop. Go ahead to the next one. Here's one of the completed cars. It looks like you can't quite see the roof hatch. Um, these cars were specifically rebuilt to haul or to take care of the Monon's grain traffic, which there was quite a bit of it.
Hmm.
In order to keep the cars available, because they were used seasonally more than anything else. I mean, use them anytime. They were good, clean cars, but they have had a group that were assigned to Bainbridge, Indiana, a group signed to Rensselaer, Indiana, and a group uh, assigned down on the Indianapolis line to Sheridan, Indiana. And so when these cars were, the return to routing tells you to take it back there empty and wait for your next grain loading assignment. Or, of course, in the busy time, they just took them right to the elevator and then didn't screw around with storing them. But that's how they positioned the cars so they were ready for what they were probably going to be used next. Um, Go ahead. Uh, okay, this is a roof shot that gives you an idea what those roof hatches looked like. And this was among the last cars rebuilt. Obviously, 10427 was the, or 28 was the last one. This was seen at Lafayette shops in July '70, and it was pretty much fresh out of the shops. You'll notice that they painted the roof on these cars. So they were full, that's typically the Monon didn't paint roofs. They were galvanized, but in this case they did. Of course, they were putting a whole new section in the roof, so that made a difference. Go ahead. This is a model of one. Here again, went through the gyrations of the side panel changes, and then these are Detail Associates roof hatches that they're actually curved underneath to fit on a cylindrical covered hopper, so I had to file them flat before I glued them to the roof. And it's an interesting little tidbit. I wrote an article on how to do this in one of the magazines, and I got the hatches on the wrong spot. I got them exactly catty corner from where they were supposed to be, and I walked into Overland Models, and they were chuckling to no end. I didn't know why, and they finally showed me. They drug the magazine out and said, "Here's your prototype photo in your article, and here's your model, and they don't match." So they got me. That's since been corrected on this model, of course. Go ahead. Okay, the shops. I better read this. I'm not sure what it says. Okay, car shops located in Lafayette, Indiana, repainted a number of 40-foot boxcars during their life. The takeaway for the modeler is the cars receiving extensive repairs that required repainting had to have half or more of the car that needed completely repainted before they'd paint it. So they didn't just go and paint cars. The Lafayette shops did not apply black paint to car roofs and ends. They ignored the roofs and painted the ends the same color as the sides. Galvanized roofs were not painted, but they did get overspray on them from the painting process. And the trucks were cleaned, inspected, but not painted. And they were subject to the same overspray from the sides as the roofs were. So that's generally what happened to a repainted car. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, this is a Lafayette shop repaint. This is a 37 AAR car, and this is probably a one of paint and lettering scheme. Um, that the Hoosier line Herald you see to the right side was actually what was delivered on the 1 to 500 series cars, which hadn't been built yet. And then they were experimenting with how to present the word Monon, and of course the CIL reporting mark. So this is a one of a kind car, as near as I can tell. Go ahead. Does have the National B1 trucks, and here we have the model version. This is a red caboose kit uh, with the model railroad supply decals. Go ahead. In late 52, this paint scheme was adopted by the Lafayette car shops and became the railroad's signature paint scheme, the one everybody is most familiar with. It appears that the uh, stripe at the top was a very light gray, and the rest of the lettering was white. The Hoosier line at the top was black. And if it was painted in a factory, it had black ends, a black roof, but if it was painted by the Monon, it did not. And this car is a repaint by the railroad. Um, and the CIO reporting marks were used right up through January 9th of 1956. Go ahead. Here's another shop's repaint, but this one's obviously been painted after January 10th because it has the MON reporting marks. Go ahead. And here's one that's been repainted and the paint kind of gave out. The 397 is a 1 to 500 series car. You can see the lettering is nicely tucked in between the weld seams. And it was originally lettered CIL, and then MON period was applied over it. And it looks like the paint, they probably didn't clean it very well before they painted it. And both of the CIL and MON reporting marks are showing through. Go ahead. In some cases, and there was a certain period where Uh, a lot of railroads did this, including the Pennsylvania, where the railroad's name was sufficient above the number and a reporting mark wasn't used. So in this case, CIL was painted out and nothing else was done. Um, this is a 37AA car. Go ahead. And sometimes the railroad was able to put the new reporting mark, the MON, neatly between the lines before and above and below. There was a period when the line above and below the reporting marks were required, and that was in some cases maintained, but not always. They did it about any way you can imagine. So go ahead to the next one. And this is a model, red caboose car, scale coat 2 Pennsylvania Railroad freight car color. And that stripe is not gray, it's white. I didn't know any better at the time. And other than that, this is painted from a prototype car, and it's got the National B1 trucks and the wood running boards. Go ahead. During this period, when they were applying that standard or that signature paint scheme, there were cars that also got this scheme. This was a less expensive paint scheme to apply. I don't know what caused this lower cost alternate paint scheme to be applied, but we have obviously some photographic evidence that it did exist. And it must have been a success because this paint scheme ultimately became the standard paint scheme in 1958-59. But this is, as you can see on the reweight date, this is earlier than that. So go ahead. This is where the Monon's paint schemes headed. The signature paint scheme was last used no later than 1958. We've been able to document, and this more simple paint scheme was used. However, this particular car, and I have a list of the cars that had this. This particular car is black with yellow lettering. There were 7 boxcars that were painted from the 9001 to 9449 series. 7 were drawn at random, and they were painted black with yellow lettering. Lots of folks like this, and they've come out with hundreds of them again. And here again, there were only 7 of them that had the yellow and black. There were also some gondolas and some hopper cars that got the same treatment. Uh, so go, but this is normally this would have been well, let's go finish with this. This is what the car looked like in color. And let's see, go to the next one. Okay, this is what the shops was applying to cars by March of 1959. Here again, this is a boxcar brown uh, lettering and white or boxcar brown car, white lettering. And this scheme, with one slight modification, lasted till the L&N merger in 1971. Go ahead. This is a red caboose 37 AAR car. And here again, scale coat paint, monorail supplied cows. And of course, the wood running board was retained on these cars, even with this modern paint scheme. Go ahead. The small modification I mentioned that carried these cars to the end is the Herald. Uh, as you can see, Monon boxcar number 1 got the latest paint scheme, no matter what it was, and this was the latest and last paint scheme. It had the large Monon, the MON reporting marks, but the Herald was now round. There was no horizontal, what we call the wheel on rail uh, Herald. The rail was gone, and so was the Hoosier Line slogan underneath it. So we just call this the Circle M Herald. Uh, go ahead. And most of the original paint schemes lasted a long time. There weren't a lot of repaints. So here's the 103. It's had the CIL reporting marks painted out, but no MON was added. And it looks like the lines above and below the number were retained. Go ahead. And here's the same car with a different treatment, the MON reporting marks applied over the painted out CIL. And you notice there's no period on this MON. That period didn't last very long. Go ahead. Now this is a unique car. I didn't think it was until something hit me. I was at the Monon Society's uh, world headquarters looking at stuff, and one of the guys knew I liked freight cars, and he threw this picture down in front of me. He said, "Here's a good picture for you, Mont." And I started looking. Yeah, that's neat. That's a 783. That's a one of the Pullman cars. It's a PS1. It's been repainted though in the Lafayette shops. The gray stripes obviously there. They're not using the MON reporting mark. Really neat. And then it hit me. Can you guys see the end on this car? That's not a PS1 end.
You're kidding.
No. So something's been going on here. Go to the next one. That's an approved dreadnought end. But see, here's a
Hmm.
drawing of Monon 783 in this Pullman Standard ad, and it shows a PS1 on the B end on the B end.
Hmm.
So what happened was, first of all, the Monon would take two wrecked cars and make one good one out of it whenever they could. If there were two total cars, they could probably still salvage a car out of it. Pullman Standard caught on to this and ran a 3-page railway age ad on how easily done this was. And they wanted a car for the ad. And it just so happened the Monon had one and sent the photograph. However, they did realize that it had the wrong end on it and dummied up the end in the ad. So in this particular drawing, and I think it's a drawing, the 783's got the correct end when in fact it has an improved dreadnought end. So a little sleight of hand there by Pullman Standard. Go ahead. And we saw a lot of this if you know your boxcar details. Here you see it. I think it's got in this particular photograph down at the bottom. I believe it's got the wrong end on it, and Pullman didn't catch it. Go to the next slide. This just shows how the wrecked cars were spliced together to make one good one, and that's the other car up at the top left that contributed to what was the final 783. And I guess 783 got rolled down an embankment, and I would think they would, for financial reasons, when they rebuilt the car, they'd want to retain the newest number, but I'm not sure what drove that decision. Uh, Go ahead. Okay, paint you want to use if you're going to build a Monon boxcar. And by now, if you're ever going to build one or want one, this is um, you should know which one you'd like to have. Um, Boxcar red, you want to use Scale Coat 2 Pennsylvania freight car color, and the Boxcar brown is Scale Coat 2 Boxcar red. Now, probably somebody's going to say, well, they don't make it anymore, and they probably don't. So you've got to match those colors to the new paint that you have been forced to use since Flocal went out of business, and now Scale Coat may not be available. So we still have to maintain our high modeling standards. Go to the next slide. Okay, this is a shameless commercial for the decal line that I have invested in. So if anybody wants decals to build a Monon boxcar, just contact me, and here's the three different sets that you saw being used in this clinic. And there is a handout, as I mentioned. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see myself on the video, and I turned it back on, I thought. Oh, well, that's all right. You don't need to see me anyway. There is a handout. So I emailed it to Greg just before we started. He probably hadn't had a chance to find it yet, but anybody that wants it, or send it to everybody, I don't care.
Yeah, I'll send
It
it
has
out.
all of this. Yeah, it has it all in detail, what I've just told you in the last, how many ever minutes it was. Wow, I went over an hour, didn't I? Okay.
Just
So
barely.
there, that's it, guys. Thanks for your attention.
Well, thanks, Mont. That was it. Very interesting.
Yeah, very nice.
There we go.
There I am. Yeah. It
Yeah,
helps put the camera on.
yeah, a lot of really nice modeling there, and a lot of great research and details. So that's really neat.
But I don't know anything else. Just that.
Yeah, well,
What
at
do you
least you
use
got
for your
that.
National B1 trucks? Where's your source for those?
Well, I think Lifelike makes them now.
Hmm.
Before that, what was the truck company with the lead? They were metal with lead sides. I can't remember
Red
the name. I've
Ball?
got a lot of those. What was it?
Red Ball?
No, after that, but I may have been Red Ball trucks.
Hmm.
Anyway, they're terrible. So I've been trying to change them to the Lifelike trucks.
Yeah.
They're every time there's a derailment, you look and it's one of those trucks. So
Yeah,
I've
I
been
got rid of mine.
yeah. So Lifelike makes the National B1, and that's where you can go for it.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, I didn't know if Katie made them or not either. I haven't checked that.
They do not, to my knowledge, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
They make the A3s, and there were in the Monon either had A3s or Barber S2s. It's about the only two trucks they had other than the National B1s. So I'll expect to see all your models next week.
That's great.
Maybe maybe decals.
Just
All right.
one little point of clarification, Mont, you showed some pictures of 5-panel superior doors.
My mistake.
Were
Yes,
they 7 panels or 5 panels on the prototype?
they were 5. That
Okay.
was that was the group of
For the
cars
7-footers?
bought from the,
Yeah,
what was that?
the 7-foot.
It was the group. No, well, the 7-footers were 5-panel also,
Okay,
but the group bought from the NYS&W via Pullman also had those 5-panel doors.
okay.
Okay, and here again, that you'll see it in the handout. There's one other place that the 5-panel door showed up when the Monon replaced a door and they didn't have something sitting around. They would buy the cheapest thing they could find, which was that 5-panel door. So you'll see a few cars, and very few, like one that I know of, that showed up with a 5-panel door on it. And it was obviously a replacement door. So, but good catch. I forgot to mention the 5-panel doors. Anything else? You guys probably all got my email address. So if you cook up any questions or want to build a model and you need any kind of help with it, I'm always glad to help. We need more Monon models out there. Everybody should have at least. They did go everywhere. Honestly, they did go offline everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And the Monon was fortunate enough to have all those connections and access to all those cars passing through. So it was pretty easy to grab somebody else's empty when they didn't have one of their own.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Mont. And we do not have anybody on the schedule next week, but I'm sure we'll correct that in the next 7 days. So we'll get together next week. And if you would like to present, just let me or Ron know. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Good
Thank
week.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right.